my name is Iris. Currently, I am part of the in-house staff at the Omni Champions Gate outside Orlando, Florida. I've done a bit of everything from theater to radio, television, live events. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater, and my first job was in radio, so you never know where you're going to end up in this. I'm part of this community because I believe in education, and during this time, I believe everyone can improve their knowledge to get more gigs and do more things and just be more flexible in the new whatever it is we're going into. But I appreciate you're here. I hope you learned something and have fun watch the show.
AV Tech Talks, House Rules. Join us on AVE Live, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us on Zoom. Watch on Facebook or YouTube from the AV Educate page, or register as an attendee for the webinar. Live Q&A. Our guest will lead us through a guided demo and conversation about tonight's topic. We will take your questions and comments throughout the show. Don't wait until the end. Get your questions and comments in early to shape the conversation. We don't know it all. We're human and don't claim to know everything. We may demonstrate or discuss one way to do something, but that doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. If you found another way that is easier or yields better results, please share with the community so we can all learn together. Follow AV Educate. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and have a library of content on YouTube. Join us on Zoom for AV Tech Talks and to become a member of our community on Discord, where the conversations, the learning, and the sharing continues. We are where you are. Place your phone over the QR code to come learn more about AV Educate.
Hey, and welcome to AV Tech Talks. There we go. Today we are going to be talking about vMix audio and NDI. Love to just welcome our panel. We got Chris and Jeff, Iris, Shrikant. Craig is joining us for the first time, I believe, and Marty. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. So, vMix is super popular these days. There's a lot of audio functionality. And, there seems to be lots of questions around it. So we would love to take your questions and your comments. If you've got a workflow that you're using with vMix or with NDI in regards to audio, we'd love to hear about it. Share it with the community. Feel free to use the Q&A function here in Zoom if you're joining us in the Zoom webinar. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, then you can put it right in the comments and we'll get it up. During the show, we'll ask those questions, we'll bring those comments in, and we'll talk about it. As you can see, Omar's not here with us tonight, and Omar was kind of the driving force of tonight's talk. So Chris and I are going to wing it the best we can for you.
We're the best wingmans of the game, don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. But we also have Jeff, who is a wonderful resource, who's going to save our butts plenty tonight, I think. Shrikant is also, a great operator of vMix and just virtual event guru halfway around the world from us. So, so we'll just kick it off tonight. And we'd love to take your questions. So get them in early so that we have stuff to talk about. So Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing, because you just were mentioning how you're using NDI all the time now, and you've gotten into vMix recently. You want to just tell us a little bit about maybe some of the workflow you're doing, and
Yeah, absolutely. What recently just started happening, by the way, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure Omar does, as well as Ed does, and everybody here. I live stream on Twitch to get used to using vMix for virtual events and stuff like that, and learn how to use it myself. What I did is I actually uploaded a bunch of my own streaming graphics and streaming overlays and things into vMix, and started using vMix as the overlay editor for my stream. It doesn't do anything fancy. It doesn't release any encoding or anything that I was already using. So I was like, hey, why not? I need to learn how to use vMix a little bit better anyways, and everything like that. So I did that, and now I use it every day. I use NDI every day to get my video over to Twitch, into the vMix, and then I have it all on vMix, send it out through OBS. And I only do that because all my stream stuff is kind of linked into my OBS, as far as like all my chat commands, all my channel point redemption commands. And like there's a channel point redemption when you're in my chat that you can actually change the color of the lights. And that's all based through my OBS. So I can't really kind of change that through vMix. So that's why I use OBS in that instance instead of vMix. But I use vMix basically to program and shift the whole show. So my webcam overlays through vMix. I have lower thirds that I use through vMix. I have socials that I have pop up and in and out, and I use that through vMix, and they're all on commands through my Stream Deck. The biggest problem I had, and this is kind of where Omar wanted to kick off with it, was the audio interface. Doing NDI audio over into vMix for myself is a little tricky, because one, I'm not an audio expert or an audio guy to begin with. I'm a video guy. But the biggest thing for me is you have to be kind of careful, we found out, with how you're ingesting the audio. The mixer that I use, the digital mixer I use, we found out does a loop playback on itself. So NDIing anything from my computer double feeds it, because my mixer ingests all the audio into it and sends it out into one signal. So I'm getting all the desktop audio as well as my digital mixer audio being sent over NDI. So what I did is I bought a single channel, $50 single channel mixer that I aux out everything into my stream, is basically what I do. And that was the saving grace for me, but that's not always that's not always available for everybody to be able to do that. So that's kind of where we were coming along with this, was, okay, how do we do this? What experiences have other people had using vMix and issues that they've run into when it comes to NDIing audio, interfacing and getting video and stuff like that into it.
Great. That's cool. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like it took much for you to pick up how to do it. And you did find a couple pitfalls that, that you had to work around, and so it kind of just shows how it can be kind of tricky.
Yeah, we figured the mixer was causing the issue, because we were looking in vMix. Me and Omar are going back and through with vMix, and I'm like, I don't get it. We were using it for another show, and then all of a sudden it started doubling the audio. 1 minute it worked, 1 minute it didn't. We were like, this doesn't make any sense. Nothing's changed. Nothing's out of the ordinary. All the mix, everything's lined in. Everything's set to mixer channel A or master or B, and it's coming in the right levels. And we even had the new NDI monitor up, and the NDI monitor was only picking up one source of audio. What ended up being the grace that we had found was it was an accident. I accidentally kicked the line here, because as you can see, these headphones I wear have a 10-foot cable on them. And that's for a reason now, because I've knocked my mixer off my desk about 200 times. But the cable I was using wasn't really that long, and my foot got tangled in it, and it actually unplugged my mixer, and all the stuff stopped doubling. So it was like, why is my mixer doing that? So he plugged it back in, and then that's when I actually dove into my mixer, particularly as a Go XLR. It's a digital soundboard, voice changer. I don't know if you guys can hear if I do the voice mods on it and things like that. So it's all embedded, and I can do, I have the cuss filter on it, and I bought it for streaming. It's gimmicky, it's fun, it's gamey, things like that. But it ingests all the audio from the computer is going to this via the USB, and then it loops it back out of my headphones. So the routing, there's nowhere in the routing that it allows me to shut that feature off. I can't, even if I even turned all the sound going to my headphones off, thinking, okay, maybe that's where the doubling's coming from, is because I'm routing it to my headphones. I shut everything off to where it was only just ingesting everything, and it was still getting double audio through NDI. So it's something about the loop back in this mixer is looping it back into my computer as a double feed. And we just figured, okay, it has an auxiliary out and actually supports RCA out and actually supports digital optical out. So I went online and I bought a $50 Pile one channel mixer, input mixer, and that's a digital mixer into my stream PC, and I optical audio. And as a backup, I have 2 RCAs laying here just in case the optical audio dies, to where it goes to my stream PC. So that way I can get the sound without getting the NDI double feed. And I can still have my fancy little mixer that everybody loves and enjoys when they walk in my stream and I go, you know, so those are just fun little things. So that was my workaround for it. And that's where, like I said, me and Omar got to talking. Like, I wonder how many other people have had this issue where they have their own inline mixer into their computer, or they have something into their computer. They're NDIing a source over to another one, and it's doing all this. So we sat down and we were going through a bunch of troubleshooting stuff. And then he was like, you know what, we'll put together a show for it. And we went through probably about 14 or 15 different scenarios of where, NDI and putting it together and having it on multiple, and how mixer you can have channel A, B, C, you can have infinite channels depending on how many mixers you set up within vMix, and see what we can do and how we can cut it in and ingest it differently. And there's a couple other things. I don't know if anybody really, I think this is only really, in my opinion, gamer/streamer type thing, but anybody ever heard of voice meter potato or banana?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Use it all the time.
Do you? Okay. So yeah. A lot of streamers use it mainly to separate their audio channels, so that way they can control the sound of game, the chat channel for Discord, and their microphone, so they can turn the levels down in their head but not shut them down to stream. And I was helping another streamer out set their 2 stream systems set up, and they were using a capture card and complaining about video breakdown and things. I'm like, NDI, you have the internet, use it here. And I helped them set up, and they tried doing the NDI audio, and voice meter banana was blocking it. And I'm like,
well, NDI audio is not going to come through voice meter. Well, it will on the play out part. So you could be a source as a MMA source. Exactly.
And that's what we found out, is that you had to create it as a source into it in order to have it. So there's a couple little things that, I've messed with and found through other people accidentally, that kind of helps break down the NDI audio in and how to route it in better, to where it works in multiple instances for everybody.
One of the biggest challenges is, without a doubt, is on the PC side of things, is they tried to sandbox the input path and the output path. And now, as we're getting more and more advanced, and we're trying to push the limits more, what we end up doing is having to combine those paths together. And this is where your looping starts coming into play, like you're experiencing. And especially we're in more recording situations, the sound card itself, it's like a Focusrite, or say, for instance, a Personas. I have an audio box from Personas. One of them has a mix, a knob on it, so you can mix between what's playing out of the sound card, because it's a 2-way sound card. So it plays off of that USB cable. It plays audio into it off the preamps that are on the front, and then it receives audio from the computer. And then I have a knob on it that I can mix the live microphone and the computer audio. The reason that exists is so whenever you're doing recordings, that allows you to have lower latency if you're listening to the microphone. Say for instance, if you're playing you were playing a guitar on one input and then singing to it, you would want that latency to be as low as possible. You wouldn't want to hear the guitar after you already have it processed within the computer. So what we're running into is manufacturers that were fighting those problems, and they've created other problems, because now we're getting into this loop situation a lot. I just ran across one thing in the cloud in the last 2 days that I'll share with everybody, because it was a bonehead thing of mine that I forgot to check whenever I built a new audio mixing system, which is literally just doing audio in the cloud using Harrison's mix bus, and doing NDI audio in and out. Harrison would pick up the normal Windows drivers. So there's two different types of drivers. There's the native drivers that come with Windows, which is like a DirectX or MME. They will usually show down and the drop down as MME. The others are WDM, and then the others are ASIO, which are the more low latency, more professional type drivers, more professional gear uses. What I forgot to do was turn on privacy on their microphone. Mixbus would not see anything else about that other part of the audio. It only sees.
You're breaking up there a bit there, Jeff. We're getting great stuff from Jeff, but he's breaking up a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff. We cannot get a word of that. At least I can't.
And finally today, I finally just was going back and forth with another tech and a bigger show.
Jeff. So Jeff, you've been cutting in and out a bunch. We didn't get all of that. Jeff's on the road. So
back on the road, I'll let you get a better signal.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff. Thanks though. And I'm sure that would have been gold, everything that you were saying. It's just unfortunately we weren't getting all of it. But sorry, I'm just pulling some questions from some of the places. Anybody else on the panel have experience doing with NDI audio or vMix audio or both? Sure, Kent, I know you work on some pretty intense shows.
Yeah, I use NDI all the time and prefer, since I'm working as a one-man, I prefer without going with the audio mixer and then pull all the feeds from Zooms or whatever it is from through NDI so that I have full control over it on my Stream Deck or the MIDI controller. So maybe after some time, after we go through some of the questions, I can show you one of the next event I'm working on. I just made the layout in 10 minutes before the show, so I would like to show it after some time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So speaking of some questions, let's look at Alexander had asked here in Zoom, how do you route multiple video and audio sources from different meeting platforms, Teams, Zooms, WebEx, etc., without major problems?
That kind of comes all down to your network when you're going over NDI. As long as your network can handle the multiple NDI feeds coming in, you're not going to run into any major issues. Another way you can do it is you can always magwell in, do a decimator out, magwell into the vMix machine. As long as the vMix machine can handle multiple inputs, you can get all of that video in and audio route through a mixer. But NDI is all based on the limitations of your network.
Yeah. So, and Teams has some native NDI implementation. Zoom, you have to do it with you would have to use captures from NDI tools using screen capture, which then you can take the audio from that way and bring it into your vMix machine. Actually, wait, how do you route multiple video and audio sources from different meeting platforms? It doesn't specifically say vMix, but so with Zoom, if you're doing multiple presenters, there's a few ways to do it. You can do, different people on different machines pinned full screen and capture them that way, so you get individual feeds. If they're all in the same meeting, the audio is going to be shared. So one of the other things we do is we can put people in breakout rooms and capture each breakout room with just the one person in it, and then you get an individual audio and video feed. But then you have to make sure you send return audio back to your presenters. So that's with Zoom, the challenge being that it doesn't natively have NDI. Now, pretty soon, Liminal will be releasing Zoom ISO, which will do individual NDI feeds, but it's still not going to do the audio. So the audio thing is still going to be a concern. WebEx doesn't natively have NDI, I don't believe. So you would be doing screen scraping that way also.
No, WebEx doesn't natively have NDI, and WebEx also has an audio glitch issue. When you are using NDI, you have to go in and basically you're telling the computer that you're doing a musical sound setting or playing music through WebEx. Basically, kind of like in Zoom, how you turn the original sound on in Zoom. That's how you turn the original sound on to get the actual audio inflections out of WebEx into vMix or through NDI. If you do it any other way, it kind of cuts the audio and it'll blip. You'll be talking and it'll sound like you're doing this when you're talking.
Also, WebEx, I've noticed it automatically changes the audio source. Still, there is a bug. I've used it one time and then learned it and never used it.
Got it.
So for audio routing, would you not also look at Dante as an option if you're concerned about the glitch of the other protocols, and just bring that through? I know some people haven't had a great deal of positive experiences. I use Dante Via and DVS on the same network without any Dante hardware, and it's been solid. It's been really great.
Yeah, Dante workflows are great if you understand Dante. That's absolutely.
As long as you're not in the cloud.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's not gonna work in the cloud.
It's a local thing only. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about Craig that you have to use Dante Via. I apologize because for Audinate for creating that product.
Yeah,
My
like I said,
condolences
I must
also.
be one of the very few, but I've had great experiences with it. I don't use it on a large network. I don't use it on I've got one computer that runs it. The other 4 or 5 on the network that connect through it are just running DVS, and it's been solid. It's been really, really, really good.
Yeah. So
I've used
DVS,
it on small networks as well, and I haven't had any real problems with them.
so DVS is super solid. I actually just today read was helping our friend Lee Love, who did our camera talk last about a month and a half ago, and he was having an issue with Via and which was it? Some other program, and the latency was an issue because Via has a minimum latency of 10 milliseconds. So it was something with his X32 and I forget which other program, but the latency mismatch. Oh, with his Avio drivers, right. His Avio adapter, he couldn't make a connection because the latency of Via was too high for the Avio. The Avio doesn't deal with a latency that high.
Maybe
So-
that's the difference. I'm using it all on Macs. So maybe.
Okay. Well,
That actually is a big difference. That is a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's definitely Via on PC is the
That's
sadness.
the problem. Yeah.
yeah.
sure.
But the fact that latency was an issue for him, was a big problem. And I said to him, I was like, oh, well then just use DVS, set it for 4 milliseconds, and your Avios will talk just fine. And your Avio is a clock master, so you don't need Via to be a clock master. He needs Via more for the app-to-app routing on his machine, and we're going to dive into his system at some point, he and I, to see other workarounds. But yeah, Via tends to be problematic, especially in vMix workflows, just because Via is problematic on PC. So DVS, though, super solid. I mean, I'm running right now 2 machines on DVS, another one with an Avio attached to it. I have a Yamaha console, so there's a lot of routing I do alongside NDI, and it's a super solid way to bring in your audio, especially if you're having issues like with we were talking about with WebEx and getting bad audio in. If you can send your audio out Dante, again, the things you have to think about are having a clock source. So having an Avio is a very inexpensive hardware clock source for a Dante network, or if you are all software, like Craig mentioned, you could use Via. Keep in mind you can't use Via and Dante Virtual Sound Card DVS on the same computer at the same time.
That'll make a big mess.
Right. So if you buy that bundle, I always recommend don't put them on the same machine because you've just kind of wasted a license at that point. If you're going to use Via, I mean, some people like it. I've seen more problems than I've seen solutions with it. And I would maybe even recommend just putting it on a machine that you're not actually doing any Dante audio with. Just leave it on a machine that's just so it's a clock source for the rest of your network. If that's your only option.
VIA was a solution for inter-application routing and for getting audio in and out of specific applications, in and out of the computer as well. But that's where, and that was way before VB Audio and Loopback and Audio Hijack were available. And so now these have become better solutions than VIA is or was. And they're really interesting, you can do a lot with them. They're like virtual mixers in the computer that, give you a bunch of inputs, a bunch of buses that you can route to, gives you a little bit of processing. They're very flexible. And VB Audio also has something called vBand, which is a network audio product that can send audio between computers on the same network. So kind of does some of the things that Dante can do, and it's a low-cost product.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's other options. That was one of the things Lee talked about needing VIA because he wants to be able to do multiple channels. Where VB audio cable, he's going to be stuck to 2 VB cables unless he buys the 4 VB cable package. What is VB cable? I don't use it very often because I am all Dante. What is the max you can do with VB audio cable?
Well, you can. It comes with one, and then you can buy it in groups of 2 or 3 or 4.
I think you can do a total of 5, including the free one.
4 to 5.
Yeah, 4 is the paid, and then including the free one, total of 5. But I've noticed there is no bass if you are bringing in DJ feeds or something. So I've already talked to Jeff about this. So compared to the NDI audio, there was more of a bass on the NDI versus the VB cable.
Oh, more low end.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. It was right. The NDI had more full range. You're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the VB audio cable seemed like it was band passed. I remember. I think it was you who was telling me about that, Shrikant. I haven't tested that side by side myself, but that sounds like something to be aware of, and maybe if you're running both systems to try if you have an NDI.
And then still, if you're having a small network, even a 1 gig network, you can still bring in more NDI sources. With there is an option for in vMix when bringing in NDI sources for it's a checkbox for audio only, so you can lower the bandwidth and then maximize your inputs.
Right, you could send just NDI audio, you don't have to send it along with video as a source. Yep. Cool.
Now with NDI, you have to be careful what kind of graphics card you have in your computers. I have 2 computers. One of them has an NVIDIA card, and the other one has a different card, different manufacturer. And on that machine, I can receive NDI, but I can't generate NDI.
Interesting.
Kind of curious what graphics card that would be. Is you're saying one's NVIDIA and the other one's a different manufacturer? It's the same type of graphics card, but just not made by NVIDIA. Like, for instance, NVIDIA is just the name brand and the driver of the graphics card. So NVIDIA makes like the RTX 3070s, 3060s, 3080s, 2070s, 2080s. But ASUS, MSI, Gigabit, all of them make RTX cards that are the same thing that run on the same NVIDIA drivers. So if that's the case, it might be an additional driver required by the original manufacturer of that graphics card to have that, because mostly every NVIDIA card I've ever put my hands on doesn't have an issue with NDI.
Well, I had an email exchange with their support, and they said that this brand, they don't support the brand.
I'm curious.
What it's missing is an instruction set that has to be within there. And that's just a low level instruction set that has to be there for NDI to function, and it's specifically about studio monitor display. It's a DirectX instruction set. So if it's a cheaper or let's say less expensive path of a graphics card, like the really low end ones or older
Like
ones, like 5 years
PNYs.
old, no, I would
It's
say
an AMD
PNY
card.
necessarily. Bingo, there you go. There's the reason why.
There's the reason why it's an AMD card.
It doesn't have the instruction set.
Correct. AMD does not play well with AMD graphics cards do not play well with NDI. The newest models they've come out with say they support NDI. I still don't trust them. As a computer geek and all out PC part like nut, the new 6000 series, I still don't trust them because AMD just can't seem to get their heads wrapped around the driver set for their graphics cards. Everything else they can do great. But when they put out a new AMD graphics card, it's like, okay, who did you hire to write the drivers for this? But you have great drivers for your CPU support.
Yeah, so this is an AMD Radeon. It's a few years old because it's an older computer. It's in an HP computer. And I do remember, I even remember issues where I tried to update the drivers from ADI and they didn't work in the HP computer.
Yeah, it's because it's the AMD. AMD doesn't support NDI right at this present moment. It's for their graphical
that
drivers.
Had nothing to do even with NDI. It was just the AMD drivers in the HP computer didn't work. HP said, no, you have to wait and use our drivers.
Yeah, that's another reason why I don't like HP personally.
Yeah.
I steer away. Anytime I get people call me all the time, hey, my computer's acting up. Okay, well, what's wrong with it? It's doing this, this, and this. Okay, send me the specs on your computer. Oh, it's an HP. Strike one. There's strike one right there. HP is known for having dedicated driver support for all of their products inside their computer. Even if you build an external setup for it, like you buy the computer and even put in a new GPU in it, HP still wants to control that PCI Express slot through their drivers. So if you buy an $1,800 graphics card right now, say you went out and bought a 3090 and upgraded the power supply in your HP to handle that 3090. If HP says, oh, guess what? We're not supplying you the PCI 3.0 update driver for the 3090, you just wasted your money because it won't work.
Thanks, HP.
I wonder if only the AMD consumer cards might have that problem, because I have one server with the AMD workstation card, and then I have never had a problem with piping in even 5 to 6 NDI feeds.
What workstation card are you using?
WX7100.
You're using the X71?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
X7100.
probably because that's their higher end workstation card. The 7175 and their 8000 workstation cards are their higher end cards, and they support well above half the stuff that NVIDIA does.
Yeah, but the architecture of this card would be 5 to 6 years back, so it should be.
It still runs on a 7 nanometer processor, so therefore it's still running. It's still being updated and being able to be updated to the new drivers and anything that's put out because of the type of processor chipset that's on the graphics card. So, but we do have a couple more questions. If we'll go head on to that. I see Andrew Schild said that he was interested in learning basic ways to get audio into vMix with NDI. If you haven't started already, just go to NDI tools and you can sign up there and get the NDI package downloaded on your computer. And inside vMix, there is its own shell. I don't have vMix on this computer that I'm currently broadcasting from. It's on my stream PC. I didn't know I was going to be kind of involved in heading this when Omar said, I'm not going to make it because my stream PC has all my vMix and everything on it. But there is a tab inside vMix that does state NDI. You go in there and you can control all the NDI from a specific tab in vMix. You don't have to dig for it or find it. They actually made it really nice and simple for everybody to find. And you can actually, when you pull it up and you have something running NDI, it will list and tell you everything that's running NDI in vMix.
I mean, one important thing to mention too, though, if you're doing network computers, make sure that they're on the same subnet so that it can find the NDI, so vMix sees it. Jeff's going to correct me here.
Not 100% necessary, but highly suggested. Yes. You also can use NDI Access Manager and point across the network to bridge between subnets. So if you have 2 different subnets or 12 different subnets, it doesn't matter on your network. So say for instance, if you had a 192.168.1. whatever and a 192.168.10. whatever, and 192.168.12. whatever, you can take any of those whatever addresses, put them in NDI Access Manager and pipe them into your computer. And that allows you to see and cross, you can basically cross the streams. This is one time you could do it, that it doesn't blow up stuff.
I love getting corrected by Jeff. So
It feels great, doesn't it?
Well, no, it's good because then we make sure that the most accurate info gets out there. You know, as we say in the intro, we don't know everything, and you know, I don't often I don't have different subnets set up for my workstation PCs here and Macs. So
for those of us that have been around the entire time, we understand Jeff is literally the god of NDI and networking.
Yeah.
When he talks, it's you want to pay
not
attention.
That at all. I've been through the pain, guys.
He's been through a lot and definitely uses it a lot. And
yeah, he's been bitten more than once, I'm sure. So as we were just talking about, you know, Bodie mentioned earlier, you can, I think it was Bodie or somebody said you can just set an NDI. Maybe it was Jeff. Sorry, you can just set NDI to be an audio source. Somebody said it. I don't remember who said it, but so you can just send audio. Oh, sure can. Thank you. Or, you know, once you're using screen capture, you can pick audio sources. You're using NDI screen capture and tell it what to be. It's kind of limited, but you have some options. I'll say that the NDI tools is a little more limited on Mac. So I tend to actually use the vMix desktop capture when I have to take Mac sources. It just because it works a little bit differently. Like if you do, I've always found when I do an NDI source from my Mac, because I always use dual monitors, it comes through, both monitors come through as on the same canvas in NDI. So I end up, and it depends on the orientation of my screen. I might have my 2 screens stacked, or I might have them side by side. But it doesn't do that when I use vMix desktop capture. I get 2 discrete streams that come into vMix, just like I would using NDI on a PC. So, so there's that. It looks like just going back to our earlier conversation, Paul here in Zoom also had said something about the CPU requires SSE3
and
or
SSE3.
Yeah, exactly. Instruction sets. So there's also, besides the graphics card, you have to make sure that your CPU has that as well.
Yeah, and I know Chuck on Facebook, a good guy that comes in. Love it when Bodie speaks my language. And we were talking about like HPs and having custom driver sets for their computers. You said Dell too, and Dell's gotten a lot better. They've released their custom driver sets for most of their higher end computers to where they actually allow for the custom drivers from the manufacturer to take over. So Dell used to be really just about as bad as HP was with their driver set. You couldn't do anything without Dell having a driver for it. And now they've actually relinquished that. Ever since they bought Alienware 2 years ago, they've relinquished it. But we do have some more questions. Big K and Zimmer Hewitt, if I'm saying that correctly. What are some of the limitations of using NDI audio in vMix? That I can't really touch on because I'm not an audio expert on that side. And I'm going to be completely honest with that. Like I said, most of it comes with NDI. Everything NDI is over network. So just making sure you have a strong enough connection, stable connection between the computers is mostly your limitation from my experience. Now, granted, I usually have the way we kind of do, and I have done in virtual sets is somebody is a hybrid event. Really haven't done a complete virtual set myself, where it's a hybrid event where somebody's mixing the audio on a mixer and then it's coming to me into vMix and then we're sending it out that way. As far as complete NDI limitations for audio, I don't know if Jeff or Shakrinth or Ed has experienced anything with that either.
There's no limitations. There's just goodness. Plenty of channels, more channels than you would get off of a stereo feed that other options would have. So with NDI, there's unlimited channels capability. Not everybody uses that, of course, but it is unlimited in the spec. There's 8 channels, 16 channels to match up with SDI embedded, but most of the people are using it in either a 4 or 8 channel version. But yeah, it's floating point audio. It's hard to get cleaner. It's hard to get better than what it is.
Can you talk a
So-
little bit, Jeff? I know you're not in front of a machine, but can you talk a little bit about accessing more than just a regular 2-channel over
The
NDI?
only
Sure.
the only limitations I see for my part is checking the audio feeds right before the event every time. If it is a standard mixer, you could be sure at least you will be getting the stereo out from the mixer. So if you're dealing with a lot of machines and you're piping in a lot of NDI feeds, you need to do a test run for every day so that you make sure the audio is fine. So
Right,
the
so-
only
so-
limitation. Yeah.
So basically, just solo and make sure verify what you're getting on your stream, so it's the thing you expect it to be.
Yeah.
Good advice, Shurkan. So Jeff, sorry, can you just let us know how do you access the higher channel counts using NDI?
You either have to have software that supports it. So you have to either have a custom piece of software that is addressing those higher channel counts, or you use the VST plugin, which is only currently available with VisVector Plus subscribers. And that VST plugin, like in either Ardor, Harrison, or any other, now it's VST. So it's pretty much any VST, any VST DAL or anything like that. How you like that?
You did tell us in the pre-show that your camera was precariously mounted, that your mount broke. So
No, it was even worse than that. This was you just got mad at me. I had my what do you call it? Osmo? How about that? And I had it propped up, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I just set it on my steering wheel, and it just holds right steady there while I'm still at my break. So anyway, whenever you're doing audio in the cloud, we use Ardor or Harrison, and then we're using that VST plugin, which allows us to actually address all the channels. You can do one drop in of that plugin and do just 2 channels, 4 channels, 8 channels, 16, or you can open it up and actually talk out to as many channels you want. But you would have to have something that can receive it. Just like in hardware, if you have embedded audio channels, say for instance, if you have embedded channels 1, 2, 3, 4, but not 5, 6, 7, 8, then your hardware has to be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty easy, but not all hardware will see all through 8, 1 through 8. Blackmagic, on the other hand, has always supported all 16 channels, or has for a long time supported 16 channels, because they were using 15 and 16 for comms. And that's how they do it with their ATEM camera converters. That's how they carry their comm audio back and forth between 15 and 16. But now, as broadcasters are spreading out to be able to do multiple channels of audio, say for instance, ESPN has a spec that you're using 14 channels of audio, and that's to meet their spec and their requirements to have now this is larger productions. We're not talking necessarily streaming productions, but larger broadcasts are using all those channels. Well, NDI doesn't have that limit, so you can go further. The Sienna processing engine is one of those tools that does go further, and then you could literally just build out as many channels as you want. So if you need 64 channels to match up with a Dante 64 channel network, you could definitely do it. It's just a matter of writing it.
So Jeff, does it give you some sort of a matrix for patching, or how
No,
do you just
that
have
has
to
to be
address
in the
it as
software.
in each package as this is channel 1 or channel 5 or?
Yeah, in Mixbus, it actually does have a matrix in Mixbus. Harrison Mixbus 32 does have a matrix of sorts. It's not as powerful though as, say, for instance, the Dante controller, for instance. I'm used to using that a lot. So I try to get if I'm on-prem, I'm in Dante no matter what anyway. And then I'm using NDI audio just as an ancillary extra stuff. But in the cloud, I'm using NDI audio, period.
Great.
So yeah, your typical NDI tools is only going to give you that 2-channel stereo audio. You would need a custom solution like Jeff was talking about, with plugins and the right software to be able to encode and decode the multiple channels on those streams.
The Kilo View, come to think of it, the Kilo View, and I think also, I can't remember the name of it, I always forget it. It's like something with an L. There's 2 multi-viewers that are out there. The one with the L, Lois, something or another. I'm sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. I have it bookmarked and I use it every once in a while. It's only like $75. It's a very cheap multi-viewer. It supports 4 channels of audio, if I remember right. And I'm pretty sure the new Kilo View multi-viewer that they let out, which is basically a multi-viewer, means it's just a fancier version of NDI Studio Monitor. You can actually see more audio channels in it too. And it is definitely handy. And of course, vMix does see 4 channels.
Cool. Awesome. So vMix will see 4 channels on a single NDI stream?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that I was aware of that. That's great. Moving on to another question. Don Hartley here in Zoom on our webinar had asked, if I was going to purchase a Stream Deck or a Stream Deck Mini, what would I be giving up besides button count if I went with the Mini? So that's not super NDI or vMix related, but yeah, you're going to lose that real estate. And I don't know about anybody else with Stream Decks, but I fill mine up pretty quick. My XL, my 32 button. And I think everyone I know who started with a...
ordered 8 of them.
You ordered 8 XLs? Yeah, you're breaking up there again, Jeff. I see your lips moving. Cool. Yeah, everybody I know who started with a smaller...
Came back.
Yeah, Jeff, you just...
Available on Amazon.
It's funny, it keeps breaking up, and I see that he's muted. It's just like his audio is like getting super delayed on us. But yeah, so anyone I know who started with either the standard Stream Deck or a Mini has bought in the next size up every single time. I don't know anyone who is like, oh yeah, I'm good with the small one, or they end up with multiple Stream Decks. Whether they're running Companion or the Stream Deck app. So I would say go with the biggest one that you can afford, and you'll find buttons. You'll find things you want to automate, and you'll fill it up.
I have a standard one, and that one was given to me in November as a present, and kind of wish that I would have went with the bigger one.
Yeah. What I can say though, if you know it's going to take you some time to get the funds to get the bigger one, you can always use the emulator on an iPad or even on a desktop. I mean, you don't have the tactile button pressing then, but that is an option. You can or a phone, anything you can open the web buttons with.
Yep.
And actually, the web buttons is nice because so there's an emulator that actually looks like a single page of the Stream Deck, but the web buttons, you can scroll when you're on an iPad and have access to multiple pages if you're running Companion, for example. And that is like super useful because you just have more access much quicker that way. So just a thought. Cool. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? I think we're all kind of, anybody, of our Stream Deck users, how many Stream Deck users do we have? First of all, on the panel. Yeah, and we know Jeff. He just said he bought 8 more of them. And what size Stream Deck are you guys using? Are you guys using like the standard, the mini?
I'm just using the 15 button.
I've got a 15, but I've got waiting for my 32.
I used to
30,
use an iPad,
36.
but I recently switched to the 15 case since the 32 is not in stock in my area.
Got it. And how do you feel? Do you wish you had the bigger? Yep.
Definitely.
Craig, how about you with
it's like buying a television for your house, a flat panel TV, you put it up on the wall. You think when you're in the store, oh, that's going to be big enough. And you get it home and no, always want bigger.
I can't even go back to my iPad process because I'm so used to the buttons.
Got it.
I'm pretty happy with the 15 for what I'm using it for right now. As it gets to be busier, I'll probably want a larger panel. One thing that I've seen, which is really nice, and I could search for it, but it would take too long. Somebody made a really nice custom case that held two 15s, one above the other, like that, with a nice angle. So it's almost like a 500 series console, sort of just dropping them in, nice wood panels on the side. Looked really sweet. The big question that I've got for people as far as the Stream Deck goes is anybody using it, or how is everybody using it? I think most people are using Companion with it, but are you running it as Companion buttons on the Stream Deck so you can have both Stream Deck native buttons and Companion buttons, or are people just running it purely as Companion?
That's a good question. Marty, I saw you shaking your head.
That's borderline religion, but still.
Yeah, I use it mostly with Companion, but there are some really interesting native profiles that you can get with it. And I had a lot of trouble getting them to be compatible, like running both the Stream Deck software and the Companion software at the same time. Last night I was playing around with it, and I figured out, and somebody else had recommended this. Even though that when you start up the Stream Deck, the left column of buttons has up, down, and page number, like you can page through it. It's really difficult to organize it, and I don't know if you can organize it so that you get the native buttons on one layer and Companion buttons on another layer. So what I did was I dedicated one button to switching profiles. So you can get a native Stream Deck shortcut or profile that will put Companion buttons on it. So, and so I switched, one button is switching profiles. So I switched to a Companion profile that changes all of the buttons. Then I have another, on that layer, I have another button that switches to the Stream Deck profile, and that gives me all of those buttons. It's still not quite the way I'd like to see it, but at least now it's stable.
Yeah, that is the one thing about using the Stream Deck app with the Companion plugin that gives you both native Stream Deck functionality and Companion. First of all, you have to make sure that your Stream Deck is plugged into the computer that you want to natively control with the Stream Deck buttons. That's number one. Number two, as Marty said, if you page through like you would with Companion, those native Stream Deck buttons are always going to be in the same location. So you have to think about that when you build your configurations. Or you have to do what Marty suggested, and you want to build separate profiles and switch profiles within the Stream Deck app to do what you want. So that's what I found is organizationally the kind of limitations and catch-alls with that. Because of that, I have just gone to a full Companion workflow. I run Companion on my MacBook Pro, and then I'm triggering different things. Like for the show here, I'm triggering my vMix machine using Companion, but Companion is connected to my MacBook, not to the vMix machine.
I use it in a combined mode so that I even get, so there is an option for a button to get F13 to 25 keys on the Stream Deck. So you can assign it to some macros. Even the Stream Deck app is not supported for that application. So like a Discord for muting, or so if you're using Discord as comms for me, you can use some applications which are not supported. Maybe you can fire up ATEM macros also.
I know Companion kind of encompasses a lot of that, but Discord is now on Stream Deck apps list, by the way. So you might want to check that out. And okay. I know that's recent. So I don't know how long ago you checked. I want to say that's not even a month old, because I was updating my Stream Deck and found it there when I was updating the vMix profile on the Stream Deck, because I personally like because I don't use other things. I use for vMix operating alone. I use the Stream Deck app itself, because with the Stream Deck app itself, within vMix, I can key press on the down and up. So if I want to, I can set each scene if I wanted to as a downstroke, and then on the upstroke, it fades it. So there's different things that you can do within the Stream Deck app. Now, if I'm obviously controlling multiple things like a Zoom call, vMix, and a couple other things, I will use Companion for that.
Yeah, I've seen some nice stuff where people are doing multiple commands with the upstroke and timers. So the second function is a delayed function, and as long as you hold the button long enough, it does the second function. But if you release before then, it just stops all following actions, which is actually really powerful. The one reason I was asking about Stream Deck inside or not inside, pardon me, of the with Companion inside or outside of the Stream Deck app, is because I'm looking at changing everything over to just Companion and running it on a Pi on the network, so it's not actually on the local machine. So has anybody gotten into that?
We did an episode on making a Companion Pi that Justin Butler did for us, and it's a great workflow. I am currently not using the Companion Pi because there's been some modules that have been only in nightly builds. So like Zoom OSC, for example, and that now it's in the latest release of Companion. So I could start pushing to a Companion Pi workflow. But, because I was updating Companion to nightly builds pretty regularly, I didn't go that route for now, but it's something that is very appealing, obviously, to be able to just have it on a Pi and throw that goes in your tech kit and it goes on site with you. So Chris, you had your hand up.
Oh, he had asked if anybody was using the Pi Companion build, and I was. So I have anything I can do with Pi, I try to do with Pi.
I'm actually now there's we've had Andy Broughton on the show a handful of times, and he built that Yamaha MIDI build of Companion, which is actually a custom build. It's not just a module. But his build encompasses all of the current release Companion modules in it. So he just updated that. So that's my next thing to do is grab his build. I've been waiting to use it until it could include Zoom OSC, because my Yamaha console is within reach, so it wasn't killing me to have to press, to not have a button on my Stream Deck to do certain functions on my Yamaha. But the Zoom OSC I was using a lot more. So now that those have come together, I'm going to try to do that, and I got to see if I can put that onto a Companion Pi. So that would be perfect for me. I would love that. Cool. I think we talked a bit about, I think we answered the original question about Stream Decks. So we're going to move on. Chris, do you want to grab the next question?
Absolutely. Alexander Sosador asked, would you be able to offer conference call of sorts? I'm assuming we're talking about NDIing into vMix with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I actually asked him if he can give us a little more. So Alexander, if you're still on, just give us a little more info on that so we know how to answer that.
Doug Larson on YouTube actually came in and asked any recommendations for the best type of switch, brand, model, configuration, etc. used for a smaller home setup using vMix and NDI. Any basic advice on best practices to set that up? There's so many.
It's too bad Jeff's not.
Yeah.
Let's see if he can pop back. Oh, now he's sideways and mobile. But I know that Jeff recommends. You recommend a Microtech, right? Typically,
on the low end, Microtech. The Microtech for the low end, running as Switch OS. That's the key. Not router OS. So run it as switch OS. And then step up from that, unify, but it's a pretty big step. You got a lot of learning to do with it. And then step up from that, the Netgear new M4300s.
No, that's weird to say, right? Netgear.
Well, he only has a problem with the little tiny little
I
baby.
know. I'm
hurts me.
messing with them, but it is something when you're talking about network switchers. Netgear is typically not considered a high-end network switcher, but with their new network switchers that they've come out with, they've actually come out with a really nice managed 10 gig port, and the GUI system on it is actually really nice. And I know that's for a whole nother topic, but I was actually thoroughly impressed. So I actually did their networking seminar that they had, and I was actually pretty impressed with it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm currently running a Cisco SG350, and I've got my Dante traffic on it. I've got my NDI traffic on it. I'm not using any VLANs. I mean, everything's in just VLAN 1, which is the default. And it's running great. I did minimal management of it. I find if you're doing a small home setup and you're not running a ton of stuff, plug it all in and see if it works. I find that too many people jump in and over configure their switches from right before they know they have a problem. And that's how they end up having a problem, is they've misconfigured something, or they're just, they made some error in how they configured it or whatever, and they didn't really have a problem to begin with. So run it, see if you have a problem, and then come on back or join our Discord. We'll put the link in the chat, and you can join our Discord, and you can ask any of us or any of the people in our community and get an answer. That this guy Jeff Keithley, who's driving right now, he's part of our Discord community, so we'll he'll help get you an answer. Sorry, who's not driving?
For the record, not driving.
Yes, right. Who is coming in remotely, I should say. So yeah, join our Discord and ask those questions there if you have a problem. But I would say set it up first and see what you get. I was running through a small 8-port Netgear switch until I ran out of ports for everything I was connecting. So I wasn't having any kind of traffic issues. I just didn't have enough physical ports to connect everything I needed to connect. So I would say set it up, hook it up with what you got, and give it a shot. Anybody else? I mean, Shrikant, or you or anybody else have any opinions on that?
I used to run a unmanaged D-Link 24-port switch, but then I switched to the Cisco 350 as your same model. I'm planning to get the X series next, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't end up getting the X
Same
series, but I did like those. Looking at those Netgear 4300s though that Jeff mentioned, those did look nice. Maybe one day that'll be my upgrade. For Dante stuff though, I mean that still kind of the typical switch that is recommended is that SG350. So I see myself getting a couple more SG350, the 10 port with PoE for my console. I bought my console during the pandemic, and once I get more rental, once it starts going out more, I'm going to have 2 switches for primary and secondary, and it's going to be a pair of those rack mounted with my Rio and stuff. But yeah, just whatever you got. Craig or Marty, do you guys have any opinions before we move on?
I was just going to say, depending on what the usage actually is for people jumping in, just starting with NDI or with Dante for that matter, I've still got a bunch of like a drawer full of dumb Netgear, whatever their ProSafe line is, whatever gigabit switches. Until you need to make the network complicated, keep it simple. And if you're just trying to get NDI through a couple of computers or a really small local network where you don't need to do any anything special with the network. Keeping that really simple will help with your troubleshooting, will help with trying to figure out your routing of all of your data, and just cuts out some of those other possible problems. And then, yeah, when you need it, you really do need to step up to the big boys.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's when you want to mix NDI and Dante networking stuff with your standard, internet data traffic and your VoIP phone traffic. That's when things get complicated, and you need to then start thinking about traffic priority and class of service and VLANs, and that's where things get sticky. And then precision time protocol. That's when you need to step up to the bigger enterprise class switches. And the new Netgear stuff looks really interesting. I recorded some interviews with them recently that I'm going to be posting up on the Hybrid Ministries Tech Forum web page, yeah, and a YouTube page rather. And there are others, but like the Netgear is specifically pre-configured for AV networking traffic, which makes things much simpler. They also have some really interesting ways that they're dealing with certain types of traffic. If you have a larger network where you have a main switch and then some sub switches, a lot of time, and then a router at the top. A lot of times, the traffic needs to, if traffic is flowing from one sub switch to another sub switch, it may have to travel all the way up the chain to the router and then go all the way back down a different branch. The way that they're dealing with some of this traffic is able to avoid that. It can stay within the sub switch or go across sub switches. It's kind of interesting. So it's worth looking into if you need that level of sophistication.
Right. And you may not, like we said, plug it in first, see if it works. To Marty's point, I mean, when I was just using that little, and actually I have that 8-port switch plugged into my 28-port switch, because that 8-port switch is a PoE switch, and I have one of the Dante Avio Bluetooth adapters. So I'm really just doing a switch hop into the little 8-port to get PoE for that Bluetooth Avio, because it needs PoE to run, which is power over internet, in case you're not over Ethernet, in case anybody isn't familiar with that term. But yeah, not crossing your router, so not having your NDI and your network traffic have to cross through your router is definitely helpful in keeping your latencies down and not losing data. So keeping stuff all on the same switch is another thing. And if you have switches, sub switches, if they can be connected, with a switch hop, so you hop from one switch to the other switch, that's another thing that can help in keeping all of your traffic from having to cross your router. But my, in my setup, I'm connected to my internet. Everything was going through that switch, and I don't really have my QoS configured for anything special. I don't have IGMP configured for anything special, and it's working. I see on a lot of user groups, the common thing, especially in the Dante groups, is when anyone has some sort of issue, is your IGMP is probably not configured right. And again, over configuring, I find it is more times than not the problem for people, is that they've over configured their switches out of the gate or misconfigured them, rather than other issues. These network protocols are kind of designed to just work. They find each other. One of the things that is nice that you can do with NDI is add an NDI discovery server to your system, to your setup, which just tells, introduces all of your sources and your destinations to each other. So it's just something that keeps track of what your NDI traffic is doing. If Jeff was on, I know he's away from the computer for the moment, but in the cloud, that is like an absolute requirement, is having an NDI discovery server if you're doing an all cloud setup, because those machines, the way they understand each other, they're networked, but they're all virtualized, and you really need the NDI discovery server to make that stuff work. So, so those are some little tips and tricks.
One of the things they say with Dante is the concerns about green switches. And I would assume as far as running anything like that over that, like NDI or whatever, you don't necessarily want a green switch there either, because it's just going to do its thing and you're going to find yourself going, wait, what's going on here? And trying to trace what's going on.
Yeah, the triple E switches are the devil.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. If you have the ability to disable triple E, which is energy efficient Ethernet, absolutely do so. Also, go in and disable it from your NICs, your network adapters. So I was having a problem where I was having internet dropout on one of my machines, and it wasn't the machine itself; it was the USB-C to Ethernet adapter. And once I went in and I disabled all of there was triple E, and then there was advanced green Ethernet, and there were a couple things that once I disabled those, I wasn't having it drop out anymore. So those are things to absolutely consider. Thanks for bringing that up, Iris, because we kind of, I was thinking about it earlier, and then I glazed over it because we went on 5 other tangents. But no, that's absolutely something to think about.
Regardless, that's something a lot of people kind of overlook, is disabling that energy saver over your Ethernet. I can't tell you how many times, like I said, I stream, so a lot of people, they know what I do, so they come to me for help and asking questions and things like that. And they're like, I'm running and I know my internet's good, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere I get this massive dip and everything stutters, and it's like, okay, well, go here. Did you do this? I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah, like, it's very important. Like, you'll be hosting perfectly fine. Like, even myself, I forgot to do it the first 2 weeks I had my laptop, and I'm sitting here streaming and I'm wondering why I'm dipping down to 14 megs upload, and I'm like, this makes no sense. I'm like, oh, now it does.
Right. And a question, something that Zach Anderson just brought up here on Facebook, was apologize that it's already been covered, but you also need to look out for DHCP if everything is on the same network and you haven't given statics. So DHCP is an interesting one, and static addressing is another interesting thing. I'm sure everyone has different opinions on this. I'm currently running all DHCP enabled on all my stuff. My machines don't really move very often, but when they do, I'm tying into another network for someone I'm working for with my machine. And rather than having to go and change my settings to then be DHCP, so my machine can talk to everything on those other networks, I just leave it DHCP'd, and when I come home and plug my computer back in, it finds itself on the network. Every once in a while, I do have to update IP addresses on my stream decks, but most things grab the last IP address they had when they were on your network, as far as DHCP grants go. The better way to go, and that's what I'm going to be doing on my network, is doing reserved addressing. So DHCP with reserved addresses. That's actually, there's a lot of merits to that. Justin Herminghaus, who's a regular on our show, he and I have had a lot of talks about it. He's a big networking guy that I go to when I have network issues, and he solves them for me. And that seems to be the way I'm leaning towards moving all of my machines, is to using reserved addresses with DHCP. That way, when I do go somewhere else, DHCP is still enabled, and I can grab a DHCP address from whatever network I'm bringing my computer to a show site that's on. But when I get home, it's all going to be reserved. Now, with my router, I only get 10 addresses for reserved in DHCP, but my SG350 that's what I'm going to do, is switch that to be my DHCP server, because I can do a lot more reserved addresses on the switch and it has a DHCP server in it. So those are things to think about, but I wouldn't say avoid DHCP at all costs, but that's my take. Now, I'm sure there are multiple other takes on the panel, so I'd love to hear maybe what you guys think about DHCP and if you've run into any problems with it using NDI or maybe Shirkenth or Craig.
I think exactly what you're suggesting you're going to be going to with reserved is a great idea, especially if you're doing
I'll jump
if you're going
in if I
between
can.
multiple.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. While we can hear you.
You know, DHCP starts with D, right? So
Yeah.
DHCP is the devil. That's why.
Are you Bobby Boucher? You the water boy?
He's a cousin.
Oh, you are from Texas. That's right. I think he was Louisiana though. But yeah, that's
He was losing. Yeah, it's the DHCP has its place. In a production scenario, I want to know if a device is online or not. That's my reason for having static IPs everywhere. I can look at any of my Dante devices, any of my NDI devices. I look at that. It has a label on it that says it is whatever IP address that it's assigned to. And we have ranges for video, we have ranges for audio, and we know that if it shows up in our list on our router, that we're our gateway, if that IP address shows up, or I can ping it from another computer, I know it's on the network. There's a different problem if there's a problem. With DHCP, you're in the wild, wild west. It could be any address. And that's where I just don't like the DHCP for production. And then you're also looking at link local DHCP too. That's a whole nother rat's nest. There's a lot of people in the Dante world that like to do the link local and don't even put a DHCP server on the Dante network at all. And I can't agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not in that camp because that's burned me more. You know, having to reboot a switch and and do things in the correct order because is not fun. So yes, I agree. I think Doug's question originally was about a home network, which he's going to be using for production. Yeah, but I think Jeff, you nailed it on the head because you said that DHCP has its place. What might work for what Jeff's doing on these mega large scales, aren't going to work the same if we're running a home network. And you also need to have your family being able to get the Apple TV onto Netflix and, and not have to think about a switch problem or what IP address it is or any of that stuff. If it reboots or something. So, anybody else before we move on?
I just have my separate own network in my home. So it's all different and then it has only the NDI feeds in and out. That's it. So if you can manage that, you can.
There you go. Yeah. And in the comments here, I knew this would be a debate thing, but static IP addresses, this comes from Don Hartley. Static IP addresses are great for control, but DHCP has its place sometimes. I agree. There's all sorts of differing opinions on this. So we've done networking shows and had these debates, so you can look back in our archives either on Facebook or YouTube, and you can find those and dig in if you're looking into more deeper networking dives. Or join our Discord and ask questions. We have a whole networking channel. So, Chris, you want to grab the next one?
Absolutely. Paul, I'm going to butcher this last name, so I'm going to do the best I can. Bruzowski asked if we can explain how to get 4 audio channels on vMix with one NDI source. He had just added one, but could only see the 2 channels in the audio mixer input for that source.
So, Jeff, you mentioned the 4 channels of audio that vMix can grab from an NDI source. Can you talk about that a little bit if you're still there? Looks like he might be frozen at the moment.
Yeah, looks like he might be frozen.
So when Jeff comes back, we'll circle back to that.
And then Andrew Shield said when using vMix desktop capture on his Mac. He's
trying to talk to us. Jeff's trying to get in, but yeah, Yeah, it's just not happening today. You know what? He should have come in from the cloud. Is what it is. He should have.
That's what it was. That's exactly what it is. But anyway, Andrew Shield said when using vMix desktop capture on his Mac in the vMix, he gets double audio, and my Mac mic comes with it. Anybody?
He gets double audio, and his Mac mic comes with it.
I don't use Mac for vMix, so I've never experienced that with desktop capture on my PC, so I can't even speak to it. Does anybody run into that issue themselves or use Mac for vMix?
I have not run into that.
I have not all our Windows on my end, so
Yeah, I haven't run into that myself, Andrew. So I don't know how to solve your issue, but again, join our Discord and ask there, and maybe you can give us some specifics. Like and I'm sure some of us wouldn't mind even jumping on a call with you to take a look at it. But I haven't experienced doubling of audio and the mic coming with it. I wonder if you're running loopback or anything else, or if you have, or what your audio source was. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you, Andrew. But that's all right. Andrew and I know each other, so I'm sure I'll get a text message later or a phone call. So I'll look out for that. Actually, I already see he's sending me a Facebook message. Thanks, Andrew. Cool. What's next, Chris? Do we have any others in the gate? I think I just put one in. I don't know if that was the next one.
Yeah, the next one is from Emilio Vargas. And my understanding, NDI and vMix is not multicast. Each source I connect to vMix creates a new NDI connection. Is there a thing like an NDI managed server so I can only connect one source to the server and my other computers grab the signal instead of vMix as I am running 1G LAN? There actually is, with the newest update of vMix, a multicast monitor where you can actually see the different lanes that are coming in. vMix does grab the multiple sources, or grabs the sources in, and NDI sends different I'm blanking here, of course, trying to explain it. It's different network signals for each path that NDI is sending. So video is actually one network source, your audio is another network source, and if you're splitting multiple routes into one, it's creating different network channels for each one of those. So there is a new tool. Let me see if I can find it, because I do have NDI on this computer.
Yeah, Omar was just talking about this with us a couple days ago, how he was using this tool to monitor what he had for NDI traffic, and he had a lot more NDI traffic than he thought he did. That was using up a lot more bandwidth. So
yes,
paying attention to your bandwidth is kind of important. But yeah, the one thing about NDI though, it is still pretty dynamic. So when and it's my understanding, and I'm not an expert, and it looks like we lost Jeff completely this time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're pulling NDI sources into vMix, it's not eating up all of the bandwidth until you bring it into preview or program, is my understanding. When it's just a little tile, it's not eating up the bandwidth until it goes full size.
Yeah, exactly. You're creating
correct.
you're creating like a. Go ahead, Shuk.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the feed. So if you are ingesting in 8 feeds and none of them are in program, it would be a minimum 100 to 200 Mbps. So
right, exactly. So yeah, management is important. The biggest thing, and this is a Jeff Keithley thing he told me about, on a vMix machine too. If you can add a second NIC to your vMix machine, for example, if you're going to go over that gigabit of NDI traffic, then you can add a second NIC connected to the same switch, and NDI will load balance because it's just kind of going everywhere, and you can bring in more NDI sources with that second pipeline into your machine. So that's something to think about if you think you're getting close to that limit. If you have, you know, what is it? It's is it 200? No, it's 150 megabits
By the way,
for
that
for
program that
1080p.
that real quick, and I'll come back to what you were just asking. It's called NDI Access Manager. It's with the new NDI tools. You open it up and it'll actually tell you everything that NDI is using for resources. And that's with the newest update of NDI if you don't have it yet. What were you saying, Ed? I'm sorry. I was trying to get that answer.
Yeah, I think it's 100 around 150 megabits per second of bandwidth that a 1080p
For
60
download, yeah. For download, you want at least 150. For an upload to send out, you want at least 15.
Wait, say that again, Chris.
So
I want to make sure we're talking about the same things.
If you're watching to watch a 1080p 60 frame a second stream, you want at least 100 to 150 megabits down to keep a consistent connection download speed
for an NDI stream. That's the band. Okay,
correct.
You're not going to do NDI over the public internet.
There
right.
you go.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. To stream out your upload speed to stream out 1080p is a minimum of 15 megabits. And again, you're not going to want to do that over a public network either, because you're just going to clog you're going to clog everything up.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. So bandwidth management. So you're looking on a gigabit network. Safely, what are we looking at, Jeff? If you're there again, I think it's like what, 7 or 8 streams.
8 is pushing it. Really, 6 is what I plan on with overhead.
Copy that. And that is Jeff's picture for Facebook and YouTube land that we were just seeing. He's got his "Please Stand By" logo. Hey, for some reason, it keeps coming in really tiny though on my screen. So it's entertaining.
I've never been accused of being tiny ever.
Big guy.
There's a first. There's a first for everything, my friend.
Yeah. This has been a funny episode. So one of the things I want to talk about with NDI, with vMix audio, we have all these buses, and there's 8 buses plus or 7 buses plus master, right? A, B, C, D. It's 7 plus master. And you can do a lot. There's a lot of functionality in vMix. You can bring in your NDI sources and then assign them to a bus or assign them directly to master. One of the things I was talking with Justin Herminghaus the other day, who's a regular contributor here, he was putting together a show, and he was taking a Zoom gallery and chopping it up, as multiple NDI, multiple inputs in vMix. And when he sent them all to master, he was getting all of that audio summing, because every input became its own audio source and was additive to the overall audio output. So he, he's pretty new to vMix, and one of the things he did was, lowered the levels of everything so that when he had a 2-up, he dropped both sources by 6 dB. When he had a 4-up, he had to drop it by 12 dB, stuff like that. And it was after the event that we were deconstructing some of this stuff, and I talked to him. I said, hey, you could have taken all of those NDI sources and sent them to like a bus instead, or taken just one because it was a Zoom meeting, sent it to a bus, and then created an audio input that was the bus. So I actually did that today. I wasn't running audio that way before, but on this show. So now what I'm doing is that's exactly what I'm doing, is I have a couple NDI streams that bring in the Zoom meeting into vMix, and I've selected one of them to go to my bus E, which just happens to be what I'm using. And then I made an audio input that takes bus E, and that's what I'm sending to master. I'm taking the audio input of that bus. So that gives me another volume control. I set up a toggle mute on my Stream Deck that has it's a preset, and it's giving me a nice volume meter as the text from instance feedback coming from vMix, and it just shows that there's a lot of routing you can do. I would say vMix audio for anybody who does audio is like unconventional. You know, it's not what you would expect sometimes. But you can do these things where you loop a bus and make it an input and then send that to master, and that's kind of how you get around these things. So anyone have other tricks or stuff that they're doing with vMix? Kent, maybe do you have anything that you do interesting with audio routing or something that maybe our viewers just should know about to make their lives easier?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Sure.
So this is an event I'm doing next weekend. So I haven't done this before. I haven't taken each bus as an NDI out, which is an option in vMix settings. So you can turn the individual buses to be an individual NDI out, and that will be a less of bandwidth. So for this event, I'm having two operators, which one came to be a remote operator because due to the lockdown. So I'll be handling vMix A, where MCs and DJs and ASL feeds are connected to the vMix calls. And then in vMix B, all the other speakers, the rest of the panelists and moderators will be connecting. So for this particular setup, I heard from the client is there is going to be every support person for every people who are joining in the vMix calls. So I need a lot of either vMix calls, which I don't have. So I decided to go through the Zoom route by creating multiple breakout rooms for each particular category of people. Like, so I have categorized as MCs, DJs, ASLs, because there's multiple ASL signing people who's going to be helping us with this event. And then the fourth category will be the speakers, which is a bunch of speakers who's going to be hopping out in and out vMix calls. So I decided to use these buses as a out and then bring them back in through a laptop which is running Zoom, which is only doing the routing part. Like, it's getting audio in from a particular bus and then sending out from Zoom, where if someone wants to talk to the MC, they can just go to the MC breakout room, which is connected, and then they can talk to the MC. So I don't need to do the routing myself, but the countdown will be done from me or the other operator for the vMix callers. This workflow will not be suitable for any countdowns and then bringing them in a correct timing, because there'll be a delay. It's just for people to talk to each other. And this workflow is suitable for the cloud workflow, which I'm aiming for the next event. So it's all NDI feeds, no Dante, no excuse me, no mixers. So this setup can be carried over to the cloud easily.
Cool.
Is there anything specific I need to explain from this part? And we are using Discord for the comms. Chris likes it.
No, this is cool, man. It just goes to show that because of the versatility, there's and how every show is so different, you can have very custom and intricate routing. And overall, it looks like you're really for this setup. I only see you're using 3 buses plus master.
So talking about buses, I usually keep just not a preference or something. I usually keep bus C for soloing it all the time. So in vMix, there is an option for controlling what you hear on the left side of your headphones and the right side with the matrix. So I usually put one set of people on the right, one set of people on the right. So you can differentiate between, like, you can just take it off if you don't need it. Apart from that, I usually keep the bus A for testing the pre-records or any video files which are submitted during the show or something. So I can just hop on. I can just import the video footage, and then it will be on bus A. So I can solo bus A and then test it out if the video audio is perfect or not. And then for returning feeds, I'm using so all the people who are in the vMix A machine, so the MCs are connected in the B bus, and I'm taking the minus mix from the Zoom laptop, which is running NDI, to D, and then it's in and out, creating minus mix, which is I think demonstrated in the vMix, which tutorial by I think last year someone did it in AV Tech Talks. So you can watch that. And for the production feed, I'm doing, so I'm sending the NDA feed of the speaker green room, the MC green room, and then ASL green room, and then the main program feed in a 4-box to the backend comms for the production people who are helping out, who are actively in the Zoom channels as well as in the Discord. So they'll be having 2 machines running and then communicating to me and the other operator for the show.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, man. So it's interesting to see people's workflows. You know, and it sounds like you have a standard way of doing it with that bus A being your audio solo, so you can hear your playback of videos before they go live, and then bus C being your solo of like your talent. Yeah, no, it's a great workflow, man. Pretty cool. Interesting to see like how other people do these other things, and the fact that you just have this much versatility. You know, OBS doesn't give you this kind of versatility with audio.
Yeah.
So this is great.
What Jeff thinks about this workflow. Is it future proof for the cloud workflow? I haven't tested it out, but I'm creating missions now on the cloud.
You might have to hit him on Discord to get an answer, because with his bandwidth issues, I don't know if he can see that on his phone while he's not driving. So we should definitely follow up with Jeff for sure. But looks pretty interesting, man. Very, very cool. It looks like we lost Craig too just now, but where are we at? Sorry, I'm trying to catch up with the questions. We just have a couple more questions. We're getting down to the last about 24 minutes of the show. So if you have any last minute questions, if you're watching on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, get those into the chats or the comments, and then here in Zoom, feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section. And if you haven't liked AV Educate yet on Facebook, I posted those links earlier. I don't know that we... Yeah, so definitely like us on Facebook. Join our Discord. I put that up before. There's a AV Educate group on Facebook and a page. And if you like those and follow them, you'll get information when we go live, because we're here every Monday, if you haven't tuned in before. We're here every Monday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to be on our panel, just send us a message, join a little bit early, and we can get you on the panel. If you think you got something you want to talk about, if you have a topic you want to talk about, we'd love to have people on. So back to our questions. It looks like we only have maybe 1 or 2 left here. Zach Anderson had asked, do you feel like vMix has a better audio management system than Livestream Studio? So I haven't used Livestream Studio. That's
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Which Livestream Studio? Who makes that? That's
Livestream/Vimeo.
No, okay. The Studio 6 it's called or something, right?
Yeah, they're on Livestream Studio 6.7, I believe, is what we're using.
Got it.
It's a simple mixture. It doesn't have busing near as advanced busing as what vMix has. That's a big thing it's missing.
Copy that. Got it. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything that has the level of audio busing and routing that vMix does.
I showed you something.
Well,
yes.
Vector. Sorry, yes, you're right. You're right. VisVector definitely does. there's a difference in price point there, I believe, but that's true. Yeah, there's very little, I would say, that has the versatility. Even hardware wise, like TriCaster doesn't have this many audio buses. Correct, Jeff? I don't think it does. I think TriCasters have, what, 4? Is that right? Anybody know? I think we lost Jeff again, but I don't
I've only
remember.
used it once, and that's for vision mixing, so I haven't really tested it out.
Right. But hey, it's also, when you look at things like a Barco E2, that has no audio. So, you know what I mean? There's different tools for different use cases. So,
You were going to say different tools for different fools, weren't you?
I was not. No, I wasn't. But I wish I was. I wish I had. Now, hindsight's 2020.
Now.
Too late. Exactly. So Paul posted a question here to follow up on his vMix 4-channel audio. He went and created an audio input on vMix Workstation A. It has 4 channels of audio enabled using master and bus A. On vMix Workstation B, he selected the above described input as an NDI source, and he sees only 2 channels in vMix Workstation B. Master set to 1 and 2, bus A set to 3 and 4 on his audio output setting on Workstation A. So it sounds like Paul hasn't gotten that to work with the 4-channel. I only just learned about it from Jeff today, so I'm going to have to do some playing around myself. Sadly, I can't play with it in the middle of show because I'll end up having to probably shut my vMix down. But Jeff, if you're there, I don't know if you can add, if you heard the question or if you have
Just got to make.
add.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I had a phone call come in of all things. The thing about the 4-channel audio is you have to make sure your source is putting out 4 channels of audio also. The source is not creating 4 channels of audio and then the stream. You're not going to be able to see 4 channels.
Can you give us an example of a source that would
Make sense?
would put out 4 channels of audio over NDI?
VisVector Plus.
Okay.
Sienna processing engine. It's going to be a production.
Yep.
Or vMix for that matter. You should be able to put 4 channels of audio out of vMix also.
4 channels out of vMix. Okay, that I'm gonna have to play with as an audio out. Yeah, I'm not gonna do it now because I'm just worried I'm gonna take us down.
Go ahead and do it. Do it.
No, it's all good. I'll play with it and we'll report back. Paul, join our Discord so we can keep this conversation going.
How about a media clip with multi-channel audio?
Yeah, I still think you would have to have the NDI output set up to play that multi-channel audio.
If you play that clip through something like VLC, there's a possibility VLC will translate that multi-channel audio into multi-channel output. But I'm actually, it's been a long time since I've tested it with VLC to do that.
Yeah. I wonder if QLab and Siphon would do it also.
QLab will. Yes, for sure. QLab will.
But with Siphon, I mean, like going to as a Siphon.
No, QLab has NDI out. So just use that.
QLab has NDI native? I thought the only way NDI works on QLab was Siphon.
Yeah, that was my understanding too.
Yeah. I think you have to use.
I thought they added it to it. I thought like in the last 6 months it came into it.
No, I think
honestly it's been a while.
On it.
Yeah, I don't think it has it. No. I know MIDI player does NDI out. I don't know if it does multi-channel audio.
Resolume, that's the one I was thinking of. Resolume does.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Yes. Resolume added NDI. Yeah. So, so there's things we can test this with. So Paul, hopefully, maybe you have access to any one of those that we were just talking about, and you can see. I'd be interested to see if QLab with Siphon does the multi-channel. That would be neat. I would have a lot of use cases for that actually. So now I have homework to do. Cool. So we're getting and Emilio Vargas on Facebook says yes, you can do it in VLC. So that's cool. Excellent. So give that a try. That's Paul. That's where I would try a multi-channel audio clip from VLC and see if you can pull in that multi-channel audio. So yeah, we've got about 15 minutes. Are there any more questions here from the panel or anything else that we should maybe mention about NDI audio? Oh, and then I see another question came in, but I'll keep it to the panel first. Anything else? Anybody, any questions either from Craig or Marty? I know in the pre-show we were talking about you guys were hoping to learn some stuff about NDI audio, and
Yeah, I think for me it's a matter of I've just got to find the time to sit down and hammer through some stuff, and you know, it's the best way for me anyway to learn is just to work through stuff and you know, press the buttons and kick the tires, figure out what's going to work.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I just switched to this audio workflow today. I knew about it and I was just being lazy up until now. I had something that worked and I was like, why am I going to change it? But then I said, I'm going to change it today and see how it works. And it's working the way I expected it to. Marty, were you going to say something?
No, it's just that I've been working with OBS, you know, figuring that out and not doing a lot of heavy lifting with it, but I've been really interested in vMix and the information I heard today has been very helpful.
Yeah, and knowing that you're an audio guy, you know, you will appreciate having those extra buses because the biggest pain about OBS is how it handles audio and how you can monitor audio, and you know, OBS tends to be less sophisticated.
I've been bypassing OBS with all my audio, going straight to Zoom, just using OBS for video switching and keeping audio away from it.
Yep. And then you're finding, I'm sure you're finding you have to delay your audio a little bit when you do that, though.
Sometimes, not a lot. I mean, I'm using it right now. Do I seem in sync?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great. Chris, do we have any questions?
We do have one more from YouTube from Lee Love. They asked, any delay issues in pulling audio from Zoom using SDI? We just kind of talked about that.
NDI.
Or NDI, yeah, using NDI. I'm sorry. I've had some experience with it in my own. And I've had to put delays on things before. Sometimes
Chris, going in or out of Zoom?
Pulling audio from Zoom using NDI. Yeah, pulling it out of Zoom. I've had a little bit of audio sync delay, but not much to where it was hard to get back in line. Just you had to put a delay on the video side of it to make it sync back up. So
interesting. Okay. I haven't had that on my setup. That hasn't been a problem. What I have had to do before, if I'm taking NDI video into Zoom, but I'm taking my Dante audio into Zoom, I'll have to delay my audio typically. That's more, I think that's less of it. That's a twofold thing because when I'm doing that, I'm running my video through vMix and I'm adding the latency of vMix plus the latency of NDI to network over. So that's where you will have if you have different paths for those things. But I haven't found they come in out of sync very often. I don't know if Shrikant, if you've had any experience, do you find that NDI maintains its audio and video sync?
I haven't noticed any because most of the Zoom sources are anyway delayed. So it perfectly syncs for me. I've done up to 8 Zoom NDI feeds in 8 or 9. So I haven't noticed in a while.
Cool. Excellent.
Well, certainly if you're carrying audio with video, it'll stay in sync.
Yeah.
Question is, you know, if you're carrying audio separately from video, how much delay will NDI add to the audio, or, you know, or not?
Right. Well, a lot of that's going to depend on your network, you know, and what size, you know, how much bandwidth you're using, how fast your network is. You know, if you're going through a couple switch hops, that's going to take some time. So it's definitely it's a variable, and you'll have to test it on a case by case if you are getting some sort of sync issues. But
And
yeah,
to be fair, now that I'm thinking about it, you're right. It was, we were taking the video. They didn't want to take the video through NDI. They only wanted to take the audio. So that's why we had an audio sync, is because we were taking the video SDI out and the Magwell in, and the audio was coming over NDI. So I do apologize. Anytime I've used NDI with video and audio, I've never had any issues. It was that separation that I did have that delay.
that makes sense. And then you said you delayed the video. You put a negative delay in vMix.
Yeah, put a negative
Yeah,
delay in vMix to sync it back up. So yeah, you are 100% right. Typically, when you do take the video and the audio together, you really don't have any sync issues. We were taking the client didn't want us to NDI the video because excuse me, because some of the things they had going on in the video, they were doing their own PowerPoint presentation in their own screen share, and it had animations in it, and they were having issues prior with that with NDI and animation, so they didn't want to take it that way. That's why we did the SDI out into the Magwell into vMix, and the audio came over NDI.
At that point, I don't know why you didn't just embed the audio into the Magewell, but hey, whatever.
Wasn't my call. I suggested it. I was told no.
I hear you. So many ways to skin the cat, right? It's pretty much how it goes. So it looks like we ended up getting through all the questions for today. I know we barely scraped the surface of this, and hopefully when Omar is freed up, you know, he got stuck on a gig, and it's great to hear people are gigging again. I've been out in the world a little bit recently. I have some more gigs going that are, I actually have to leave my house, and it's like I have to remember, do I have gas in my car, things like that, you know, because it's been parked for so long. But it's nice to see that some people are getting out there. So I hope that's happening in your neck of the woods, that everybody's seeing stuff coming back, and I hope that you guys everybody watching is getting on to some calls and doing stuff. So when Omar gets back, though, hopefully we'll see if we can get him to launch a conversation in the Discord and answer more questions, because I said he had a couple of things he wanted to show tonight that I just wasn't prepared to demo. So we can definitely take this conversation deeper. Again, just make sure you join our Discord, because that's where we have the conversations between episodes of AV Tech Talks. So make sure you join us over there. Dropped a link in there. You should be able to join. If anybody has a problem with that link, let us know. We'll get you a new one. And Tim, it looks like Tim here in Zoom asked if we have a link to or past video on the basic overview on NDI and vMix. So Jeff, who's been in and out of this call a handful of times today, he did an episode where he talked about NDI, and the best way to find that is either on our Facebook. You can go and look through our archive of videos, or on YouTube. Every episode of AV Tech Talks is there. Right now, I think we have every episode of the AVE podcast is also up there. So all the content that we've been putting out during this pandemic, and even some stuff that Omar had put out before we even started AV Tech Talks. I think the first time I was introduced to AV Educate was through Omar's Decimator training that he did. And then he did a Playback Pro one that was pre-AV Tech Talk. So all that content is up on our YouTube. Some of that's on our Facebook. So definitely go check it out. And
half of it's time stamped. I'm working on it.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So yeah, we're making strides getting all that stuff so it's searchable and easy to navigate. And then vMix, we had Leland Best had done an episode for us earlier in the pandemic. It might have been episode 6, I think. It's hard to keep every number straight in my head, but somewhere around that time. So that would have been probably last August. He did an episode on vMix where, you know, he got in depth with us. Obviously, there's a newer version of vMix. That's actually a great question for anybody who's running vMix. I haven't updated. I'm still on 23.0.68, I think. And I've been seeing actually in a lot of user groups just tiny bugs people are having. Is anybody else seeing that or having any issues?
Yeah, I had a bug where in 24.0.57, there is a video bug where when you import the video, it starts playing in a weird location and then it's duplicated. It is not an appropriate size. So the latest one has fixed it, 24.0.58.
Okay. Yeah, I read a few other little minor bugs that
I
are
switched
just popping
from
up.
23 to 24 just for the borders, the dynamic borders, which
Right.
you get easily. Yeah.
A lot of people switched for the extra instant replays because it went from 4 to 8. There were a couple other features. I mean, NDI got a huge uplift in the latest, but there's been an NDI bug too that I can't remember what exactly I've read it was. Emilio Vargas here on Facebook said he had NDI disconnect issues that crashed his session. I was reading about crashes and people have been getting blue screens and stuff. So I haven't updated mostly
I can
because
actually
I'm
bring
lazy.
something to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I can actually add a little bit to that. vMix, any third party that's not new tech that created NDI, any third party, they are by their SDK required to update to the latest version, the shipping version within 30 days. vMix was using something like from June last year up until December or January. So make sure if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if you're having problems, that is somewhere to look, is to find out which NDI DLL they're using and make sure it is on the latest. The latest is 4.6 currently right now. So you want to make sure that you are matching, and it's becoming more, and especially when NDI 5 comes out shortly, I'm sorry, soon, or maybe sooner.
I think Jeff's deconstructing again there, sadly. But that's good information. That it's more of and I did read that somewhere that it was a DLL issue. Sorry, Jeff, you keep cutting out. I'm gonna have to just mute you for a minute.
Someone posted in Discord about in 24 version. He had an issue with 10G network. Same what Jeff explained. It's the DLL file.
Yep. So a couple issues there, but NDI is a separate company. It's not affiliated with vMix. So all these things we take into account, and that's one of the benefits of having the flexibility to build your own machines and build these things is also that you're your own R&D department. You get to test things and see what works and what doesn't work, and that's kind of how this game is played a little bit. So I think I want to actually wrap us up. Are we going to end on time? This would be crazy if we actually ended on time. So before we end, maybe Chris, do you want to just quickly tell us what you have going on with your streams real fast?
Every day, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 2 p.m. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Excuse me, I moved that back an hour about 2.5 weeks ago. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I stream. Everything's for the kids. I do not take a single dime of donations or anything. I do have an extra life. Excuse me. You have an extra life link. I will post that in the Discord because it is rather long to grab. If anybody would like to assist with that, so far we're at $4,500 for the children local charity. It's a charity that donates money to the local hospital. Mine is Gallas Holland Children's Hospital here in Southwest Florida. It helps pay medical expenditures and bills for the kids who are terminally ill or going through really aggressive medical treatments in the local area here. And that's what I do on my Twitch and have fun. Do a little pew pew. If you're not a fan of potty mouth, don't come to my stream. I promise you I will offend you.
So thanks, Chris, for that. Cool. So next week, Chris, do you remember what we have coming up next week? Off the top of my head, it's like escaping me.
Not off the top of my head, but if you give me 2 seconds, I can find it.
Awesome. That would be great.
TriCaster.
And somebody actually just messaged me about the multi-channel audio with NDI stuff. So I'm gonna find out where this came from. I don't have time to read it all, but we'll update this into the Discord. We'll get a link. There's a channel specifically for every episode, so I'll figure out where this answer came from, and we'll get it in there for you. Paul, I think it was, who was asking about the multi-channel audio. While Chris is looking up who we have on next week, I just want to make sure that we take this moment to thank DVE Store for their continued support. You can visit them at dvestore.com. They're the reason why, no matter where you're watching us tonight, if it's Facebook or YouTube or you're here in Zoom with us, that we are bringing you our content in 1080p. So, pop over to dvestore.com if you're looking for some AV equipment, some video stuff, some lighting. They've got you covered, and then let them know that you found out about them from AV Tech Talks and AV Educate. They love to hear that kind of stuff. Guy and his team are excellent. They'll be able to help you out with whatever you need. So yeah, support the DVE Store because they support us, and we get to bring it to you in 1080p. It's great. Works out for everybody. With that, Chris, did you find what we have next week?
Next week we have TriCaster.
Oh, cool. Awesome. That's
Yes.
perfect.
We're gonna do some TriCaster training next week.
Awesome.
And don't
We've
forget,
looked at TriCaster in the past, so this is going to be a little bit different and hopefully a little more in depth than the last time.
and then if you want more information on NDI, Monday, May 24th, we're actually going to do an NDI, a full NDI segment as well. So
yeah, and I believe we have someone from New Tech coming in for that talk. We've got, this month is very, last month was all audio. This month is a lot more video heavy. I know later in the month we have Moses coming in to talk about camera tracking.
That's at the end of the month.
And there was one other one.
I don't want to give that one out yet. Let's hold that one. Let's hold that one in the bag for everybody.
Copy that.
Because that one's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. So with that, I want to thank our panel. Thank you, Chris, Iris, Shrikant, Craig. Thank you for joining us. I think it's your first time. I hope you come on back. Marty.
Thanks.
Awesome. Marty, it's always a pleasure. And Jeff, great having you here as always.
Which, by the way, we got yelled at for letting him do this and drive, by the way. Somebody on YouTube said, what the F are you doing allowing this guy to drive and interact? How much more dangerous can you get?
Yeah, that's we do understand those concerns.
Not driving.
He's not driving, as he mentioned earlier.
Somebody else is driving.
So Jonathan McDougall on Facebook said thanks and great session. Learned a lot of good stuff. Will Austin gave us a big thumbs up. So we always like to see those positive feedbacks. So if you enjoy the show, let us know. We love to hear it. And we will see you guys next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the AV Educate Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Or like I said, come join us on Zoom. And if you want to be part of the panel, that's the only way to do it. So we'll see you guys next time. Everybody give a nice wave and see you next week.